Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and today we're going to talk about probably a not-so-fun topic, but one that everybody needs to be aware of, because there's stuff coming, and the only way you can stop it, or at least attempt to stop it, is to be informed and aware. Now, you're probably thinking I'm going to be talking about that generational tobacco ban that New York State has filed legislation to discuss. No, I'm not, because we all know how horrible of an idea that is, and I'm not super worried about that. Indiana did it, and it didn't go anywhere. Hawaii did it, and it didn't go anywhere. Massachusetts, they've attempted it, and it hasn't gone anywhere statewide yet, but there are some towns in Massachusetts that suck real bad and have actually done it. So if you're living in Massachusetts, you really, really need to be on top of that, because that's coming your way. But no, I'm not super concerned about New York right now. I mean, I would say if you live in New York, PCA has a website put up to where you can kind of go and message your state legislators and tell them how bad of an idea it is. Do that. You got to do that, because they need to know. I'm not saying don't take it seriously, but, it's not something that I'm super concerned about at this. I would say you should be. It should always be rattling around in the back of your mind. But that's not the topic of today. No, the topic of today is something that maybe not a lot of people in the United States have heard much about. And it may be one of those topics that isn't necessarily a concern at this point, but it's one that could be a concern down the road. And again, I think the more informed we are about it, the better off we'll be. And there's a good reason why maybe we should be concerned about it right now. We're going to be talking about the subject of track and trace. Now, track and trace, and I realize I haven't lit up a cigar yet. We're going to get to that. There's a point. I gotta set the table, and then we can eat. Track and trace is a government-mandated system that assigns a unique identifier to every package of tobacco so that regulators can follow it through the supply chain. Okay? Now, they say that the primary goal is to combat counterfeit cigars, tax evasion, smuggling, and gray market imports. This really has been big over in the European Union, okay? So how this works, and then we're going to fire up a cigar. How this works, every box, and in some cases, every sellable unit, so like every individual cigar, will receive a unique code. That code is scanned and recorded as the product moves through the supply chain. So as it leaves the manufacturer, to the exporter, to the importer, to the distributor, and then to the retailer. Okay, so 5 different places. Once it moves, every time it moves, it's scanned and registered. And so authorities can see where that particular product originated and where and if it entered the market legally. So it kind of works like the tracking number for like a piece of mail through the postal system or UPS. UPS is a better example because their tracking system's way better than the post offices. Post offices suck so incredibly bad. I can't even begin to describe it. I don't even get me started on that again. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm not hating on the post office, but I'm kind of hating on the post office because it just keeps getting worse. Anyway, think of it like the tracking for like a UPS package where you can like check the number and you can see all where it's been. But it's for tobacco products and it's intended for regulatory enforcement rather than consumer convenience. The consumer really isn't a part of it, except they pay for it. But we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so where this all comes into play, or I should say, now that I've set the table and you're aware of what track and trace is. I'm going to fire up a cigar. And today, I'm going to be smoking a cigar, a selection from German-engineered cigars. I'm going to do my best here, guys. I'm going to be smoking the Weltschmerz. The Weltschmerz. Yes, Weltschmerz. Weltschmerz. It's the German literary term for world weariness. And this cigar right here was actually in this little pack. All right. So if you're watching on the YouTubes, I have one of the blister pack. And so I popped this open. Now, this cigar has something special. And if you saw our videos from PCA, you would have seen this. But I'm going to do it now so you can see it. So you take your phone and you kind of hover it near, right? Come on now. Where's it at? Oh, for God's sakes. I'm taking the band off. Did I break the chip? I may have broken the chip. I don't want to pay. Hang on. Well, this is horrible radio. There's a chip. There's a little chip in the cigar. And theoretically, I'm supposed to be able to hover my phone over that chip and supposed to be able to hover my phone over that chip and it will bring up the identification for this cigar to where it would have brought up all of the information. If you go to my YouTube and see the video from PCA, you'll see, what it was like. Unfortunately, I can't do it right now because for some reason the stupid chip isn't working and totally blew my demonstration for this show. Thank you, Germans. Your engineering failed me. Anyway, though, that was how I was going to get the blend details and everything for this. So I have none of that now. It's just a cigar. It's the Weltschmerz. And, yeah, I'm thrown off by this development, but that doesn't stop me from cutting and lighting the cigar. And the cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. 2 Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows 2 Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and excellent customer service. So head on over to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. And remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut my cigar. Guys, if I told you how much of a struggle this is, you would just think I'm complaining. But it's a struggle. The struggle is real. I'm very tired. I had to wait until my son went to bed to get this recorded because it's the summer and I have him extra. And, yeah, I'm very tired. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. How about while I light this thing, we listen to the greatest commercial you've ever heard, and then we'll come back and talk more about track and trace.
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino Corojo.
Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused, while the others say it's a word that's just abused. first.
I guess that's so. They can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars use authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to give the Weltschmerz a little bit of credit here. This thing's smoking like a chimney right off the bat. I'm digging this. Slight bit of spice to the retrohale, but it's not oppressive. It's kind of like off the foot here. It's kind of I'd say maybe like a mild plus. This is not anything like super strong right off the bat. You know, I right off the bat, I like the Weltschmerz. The Germans have a good cigar right off the bat. So, okay. Let's get back into track and trace here. For large cigar manufacturers, what track and trace means for them is new printing and coding equipment, because they're going to have to put a QR code band, some sort of number, theoretically a little chippy thing in the band that works. Anyway, something like that. They're going to have to make and put all that stuff into the product. They're going to have record-keeping requirements. So there's new record-keeping requirements for these companies. They're going to have to be able to track all of their product and figure out where it all goes. High compliance costs. You know, they're going to have to figure out what everything is going to cost, and they have to pay for that. And then obviously there's more paperwork for importers and distributors. For small companies, small cigar companies, especially those shipping limited quantities into Europe, this is a pretty big administrative burden on them. And so some of these compliance service providers have created special programs aimed at small cigar manufacturers to help with the process, and quite frankly, also help, or make it streamlined for them. It's a one-stop shop. They can just pay them to do it and that kind of thing. But it's bad for the little guy. It's not great for the big guy, but it's definitely not good for the little guy. Now, the thing about it is you're starting to hear about this more and more now, because so the European Union initially applied this system, this track and trace system, to cigarettes and roll your own tobacco in 2019. Cigars and other tobacco products were given additional time to comply. The system was extended to cigars, cigarillos, pipe tobacco, and other tobacco products beginning in May of 2024. Products manufactured before that date had a transition period that runs until May of 2026. So that's why there's a lot more discussion about track and trace now, because that transition period has just ended. So in the cigar industry, you obviously have opposition. Premium cigars typically are not the major source of illicit tobacco trade, based off of the reports that I read. Cigarettes are much more problematic. But once again, this is a case where cigars kind of get lumped in with all the other stuff, and the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater, and cigars have to comply just like everybody else. Compliance costs will fall disproportionately on smaller manufacturers. It costs smaller companies way more proportionally than bigger companies to comply with this law. It's a much bigger burden for like a West Tampa Tobacco than it is for an Altadis. It's just the way it is. And what that results in is it results in boutique brands reducing exports to certain markets because the regulatory burden outweighs the sales volume. They basically look at it and say, look, it just doesn't make us any sense to sell to these countries if we have to go through all these hoops to do so, and it costs us X and we're only making Y by doing it. Kind of similar to the whole regulatory issues out in California. There are companies that have looked at all of the bullshit that California has put cigars through and said, we don't sell enough in California to justify all these applications with the Secretary of State and whatever else to sell, to be on the approved list in California. And so we're just not going to mess with it. Most of the time it comes down to SKUs when it is related to California, not full companies. But in the case of this track and trace out in Europe and wherever, it could be full companies deciding it's just not worth us being there. And finally, the system adds expense without significantly reducing counterfeit premium cigars, which are not common in comparison to counterfeit cigarettes. It's a cigarette problem. Once again, it's a cigarette problem that's impacting cigars. Now, proponents of track and trace are going to tell you that it's a universal system that helps governments track legal products and collect taxes while making it harder for illicit products to enter the market. It's their standard shtick. But the key thing was in what I just said. And we'll get to that. So, what does this mean for you as a consumer? For most consumers, track and trace is largely invisible. Unless you're, getting a German engineered cigar and taking off the band and seeing the little chip there, which, again, I wish that thing would work. I really don't know why it didn't work. And that went out. It's worked in the past. I don't know why it decided to stop working. Maybe it doesn't like the humidor. I don't know, because I've kept that in the humidor. So maybe the humidity, maybe it's one of those things that it's designed for. It's a little blister pack. I don't know. Anyway, not a great commercial for German engineering cigars. I'm sorry. I was actually looking to give you guys a plug and make it look really cool, but it didn't work out. Anyway. Consumers, what are you going to notice? You're going to notice additional codes and markings on boxes sold in certain countries. You're going to notice, if you are a nerd that's like studying the box and all the intricacies of it, kind of like me, you're going to notice those codes and markings. You may notice higher prices due to the compliance cost. Once again, something that's going to increase the price of your cigars. You also, if you're in one of these European countries, you might also notice delayed launches in Europe while manufacturers complete the regulatory requirements for track and trace on those cigars. But it's not going to affect the blend, it's not going to affect quality, and it's not going to affect the cigar itself. It's only going to affect packaging and maybe the price. Essentially, to break this all down, to really just drill it all down, track and trace is a tobacco product serial number system that allows governments to follow a cigar from factory to retailer in an effort to supposedly stop smuggling and tax evasion. The controversy is whether the added costs and bureaucracy are justified for premium cigars, which aren't typically the main target of illicit tobacco enforcement. So that's drilling down what track and trace is. Now, the reason I bring all this up is because as with all things in life, ideas start places. And eventually they make their way around, and at some point they come to the United States. If they didn't originate here. But, this one did not. And so the question becomes, how likely is this to come to the United States? Now, I had a conversation with a cigar rep today, and We were talking a little bit about that generational ban in New York that I was talking about earlier. And they're pretty convinced that might be over time. Not anytime super soon, but over time, that's going to be a concern. But they brought up track and trace as something that's probably more likely to come to the United States than a generational ban first. And so that kind of got me thinking about this topic. And so I looked into this a little bit. And that's when I found out this information about track and trace. Now, I would say that no, you're probably not going to see the U.S. dive into track and trace hard. Like, it's not going to happen like this year. Okay. There's a couple of things working against it. The first one is the FDA has proven that cigars are not a priority for them. They've got bigger tobacco battles to fight. They have, ongoing litigation and regulation involving e-cigarettes, flavored tobacco. I think you're going to see a flavor ban long before you see track and trace. Other nicotine products. And then there's the whole premium cigar exemption debate, which, continues to rage on. Premium cigars, it's just, we love it, but in the grand scheme of the tobacco market in the United States, it's small. Cigarettes are still the big thing. Vape and whatever, the little Zin thing, everything is bigger. Cigars are they're small. And so, because of that, it's also not a giant driver of illicit trade. It's one of those things where I don't think the FDA is going to be jumping on this anytime soon. Next, the U.S. is a totally different beast than Europe. In Europe, the European Union and whatnot, they tend to go with a more comprehensive and centralized legislative plan for things, especially as in this case, tobacco regulations. The U.S. system it's way more fragmented. We have federal agencies, we have state tax authorities. There's other tribal jurisdictions playing roles. Like cities imposing their generational bans. It's just one of those things where imposing a nationwide track and trace program, that's going to be a big undertaking for the government to pull off. And if there's one thing that I don't think the government is in a position to be doing right now, it's taking on a big undertaking because they don't seem to have, they can't find their ass with both hands at this point. So I don't know if implementing track and trace is likely anytime super soon. Another reason why I think it would be a bigger issue here than in Europe is, quite frankly, we have organizations like the PCA, the Cigar Association of America, and others that have rallied and fought legislation and bureaucracy in the courts. I don't know what Europe has. I know PCA is starting to play overseas a little bit more, but PCA may not have been involved in this, and that's fine. That's Europe's problem, not ours. But in this case, we have PCA and we have the CAA that have a known track record of going to court for a long period of time and fighting, bureaucracy. So I don't think for a moment they're going to be like, okay, we'll let track and trace happen. They're going to bring up the same arguments that I've already covered here, which is that, premium cigars representing a tiny fraction of tobacco consumption, counterfeiting and smuggling are far bigger issues than cigarettes, compliance costs that disproportionately hurt small manufacturers and retailers. These are the fights that they're going to bring up, and these are fights that they're logical and knowledgeable, and they're true. So you're going to have a fight You're going to have a fight if this comes up. Now, that's not to say that it won't happen. And this is where I jump on my soapbox. Because let's be real, guys. What did I say earlier when I talked about proponents of track and trace? What did I say here? Where is that in my notes here? I said supporters argue that a universal system helps governments track legal products and collect taxes while making it harder for illicit products to enter the market. Collect taxes. Right there. Right there is your thing. So the strongest argument that track and trace could come to the United States has nothing to do with public health, and it has everything to do with taxes. States lose significant revenue from untaxed cigarette and tobacco sales. If state governments become convinced that serialization and tracking would improve tax collection, it could create pressure for broader adoption, which means that a more likely scenario than the federal government imposing track and trace would be that states would actually start having state-level tax stamps and digital tracking systems. And then from there, you'd have expanded reporting requirements for wholesalers and distributors, and eventually a national framework covering all tobacco products would have to be created to take into account the fact that you have so many states doing this. It's just like this generational ban. You know, when you start seeing one city do it, then another city does it, the county does it, a couple of counties do it, then that state does it. And then once a state does it, then another state looks at it, and another state. I live in Illinois. Everything California does, 5 years later, we do here in Illinois. It's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. I don't know why they do that, but they do. And so, although I will give Illinois credit, they did just recently in their budget, which, granted, I have a lot of problems with the state budget that they just passed, especially as a small business owner, because there's a lot of taxes that went into account for small businesses in Illinois. But one of them is they did cap our cigar tax at 75 cents. So it used to be a percentage of the wholesale price, but now it's capped at 75 cents. So theoretically, starting in 2027, I should see a decrease in prices at the local tobacco places by me that sell cigars. Am I going to? Absolutely not, because those retailers are going to keep the price where they're at and just collect that much more profit. But that's neither here nor there. Now, I will say that cap is only, I think, good for 2 years. I think it expires in 2029 unless that's extended, but whatever. They're trying. There's something. There's at least a little sliver of a silver lining. But my point is, state governments, just like all levels of government, are screaming for money. And they want your money. They want as much of your money as they can get. And so if they find out about this, maybe, just maybe, states start implementing track and trace on their own. And if you start having enough states implement track and trace, at that point, the federal government may be forced to step in as some sort of a regulator, or some sort of a central hub or something like that. I don't know. But it only takes a couple dominoes to fall, and then you have problems. So, the things to watch for. Track and trace proposals for cigarettes. If you hear of any sort of track and trace proposal for cigarettes, just realize that buried in the language in there, cigars may be implemented or impacted. I would also say that even if they're not, they may come along later, because that's how government works. Any sort of major tobacco law enforcement initiatives, it could be part of that. And there are different groups like the National Conference of State Legislatures. If they start working on model legislation regarding this, that prospect may be more serious, and we may have to revisit this topic. So yeah, the biggest driver for the United States getting it It's not going to be concerns about premium cigars themselves. It's going to be governments looking for tighter tax collection and supply chain visibility across all tobacco products, with premium cigars getting swept up into it, just like with cigarettes and everything else. So that's the thing, you know, and that's what it really comes down to for me at the end of this little, you know, educational diatribe here is, what is the real point of track and trace? Is it really because we really need to know where this cigar originated from and, you know, what date it maybe got to the importer or the exporter and what date it got to the importer and blah, 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 blah? Do we really need that? Or does it really just come down to the government wanting to make sure it gets its grubby little hands on every single tax dollar it feels as though it's owed? And I think that's what it boils down to. I think it's all about money. Just like everything, unfortunately, these days. It's all about money. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit in Europe. It's bullshit here in the States. And I hope to God we don't have to go down this road. But I would say it's safe that in my lifetime, we will be talking about track and trace in the United States. I don't know if we're going to be talking about it in the next year. I don't know if we're going to be talking about it in the next 5 years. But I would bet before I'm sitting here at, you know, well, I'm 44 now. If we're sitting here and I'm 64, we will be talking track and trace in the United States somewhere in that window. Somewhere in that 20-year window, we will be talking track and trace in the United States. And it's going to suck. It's just one more thing. Why? Again, why wouldn't it be? I mean, like I was just talking about, Illinois with its budget. There's so many stupid taxes. Now, granted, there's some that they talked about that they didn't do. They didn't do a mileage tax. Illinois was talking about doing a mileage tax on vehicles, specifically electric vehicles, because they said that since they don't use gasoline, that it's not fair because they're not paying the gas tax. And because we have both a sales tax and a gas tax. And so because the EV people aren't paying a gas tax, we need to have a mileage tax on the electric vehicles and basically tax them for every mile that they drive on our roads. And that money will go towards road repairs, which is where the gas tax money is supposed to go. Granted, none of it ever fucking goes to road repairs. The roads here are shit. I mean, utter shit. Granted, there's a lot of road construction going on, so maybe some of that money is finally getting used, or maybe things have gotten so bad they have to spend some money on it. That's what I suspect. But yeah, no, it's bad. But they did not do that. They also were talking about doing a tax on Amazon deliveries, to where if you got an Amazon delivery, aside from the sales tax that you pay on that product that you bought from Amazon, you would have been dinged an Amazon delivery tax. So let's just say for every delivery, maybe you get dinged $2. And that's just tacked on to the total. Amazon collects it, and then they give the big check at the end of the year to the state of Illinois, and that's their delivery tax money. Which again, bullshit. But they didn't do either one of those this time, but they're talking about it. See, this is the thing, guys. People talk about J.B. Pritzker, and I hear some people talk about J.B. Pritzker like he's a good guy because he's going out there and railing against Trump. And I get that. I do. I get that. But just because he's talking up against Trump, just because he's going up and speaking, and arguing with and countering and playing the kind of taking the same role as what's his nut out of California, the governor out there, doesn't matter. Newsom, just because he's kind of like, trying to play that card, because let's be real, my governor Pritzker, he's looking to run for president in 2028. I mean, it's a poorly known secret. I mean, well, not poorly known. It's a well-known secret here in Illinois. So that's why he's doing it. And anyway, some people are giving him like kudos because, they don't like Trump. But let me tell you, Pritzker's not a good dude either. Our spending has just skyrocketed since he got in. And the taxes and everything else, trust me, Illinois is not in good shape. It's not. And so here we are. And what I'm telling you is it all comes down to taxes. And these states, they want your money, and they don't care how they're going to get it. They're just going to take it. They're going to find a way to take it. And I don't know. There's a small part of me. I wrestle with myself because there's a part of me that says, at some point, the system is going to be bogged down so damn much, and the people are going to be so pissed off that we're just going to all stop. Nobody's going to pay their bills. Nobody's going to pay shit. It's just going to be done. People are just going to be done. They're going to say, fuck it. I'm done. I'm not paying for this. I'm not paying for it. I'm going to live. It's the United States. We're the richest country in the freaking world, or at least we should be. Granted, we owe so many people or so many countries debt. At this point, maybe we're not. I mean, one could argue that China has, owns so much of the United States through various debt that they've purchased off of us that maybe they are. But be that as it may, this is not a country that anybody should ever want for anything. It's embarrassing that we have homeless people and we have hungry people, and we have children that aren't getting everything they possibly need for success. It's embarrassing that our developmentally disabled population doesn't have everything they need at a moment's notice to live a happy and productive life. It's embarrassing that seniors have to sell off the totality of their life so that they can go and live in a nursing home, and then that way, there's nothing for the state to collect, it's all embarrassing. And yet here we are. And so I wonder, at some point, what if everybody just stopped? What if we just said, fuck it. I don't like this system anymore. We're done. I'm not paying into it. I'm over it. What are they going to do? Arrest everybody? Are they going to put us all in debtor's prison? Are they going to send collections agents on all of us? But then that leads to the other problem. As nice as that sounds, as nice as it sounds to just throw a wrench in the machine and cause anarchy, that's the problem, is it causes anarchy. And then at that point, that's when you get the roving bands of marauders going around and stealing shit from people because we become a bartering system. And then at that point, if you don't have this, then you can't have food and blah, 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 blah. And it becomes a post-apocalyptic war zone. And so I recognize there has to be structure, but on the flip side, I hate the structure that we have. And I'm not standing here saying, "Oh, we need to just go communist." That's not what I'm proposing. But I do think it's embarrassing that we don't have the ability to provide the basics for everybody. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be given everything, but why I don't understand why people are sitting around without the very basic necessities of life. Everybody should have a roof over their head and a refrigerator with food in it so that they can live. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, that's a whole different rabbit hole we can go down. But anyway, let's do this now.
It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation.
Boy, I get all sorts of stupid fired up when I'm tired. I don't know what the hell this is. I don't know how I got from track and trace to we need to give everybody a house, but here we are. Anyway, Villiger Entertainment Report. So what have I been watching lately? So today I've watched an awful lot of storybots. But that's neither here nor there. What I have watched lately is, I mentioned it a while back. I started a little while back, and for whatever reason, life got in the way, and I stopped watching it. And it just hung there on my continue watching thing on HBO, and it's The Chair Company, the first season of The Chair Company with Tim Robinson, and so this show, it's eight episodes, and it's about a dude who, he gets promoted to this position, and he is at a company function in front of God and everybody, sits down in a chair, the chair breaks, falls, he falls down, everybody kind of laughs, and then they're concerned and blah, 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 and whatever else, and he's fine, it's no big deal, but he's embarrassed. And so he looks at the chair, reaches out to the chair company to voice a complaint about the quality of their chair, and it takes him down this rabbit hole, this giant rabbit hole of conspiracy, all related to this chair company. And it sounds ridiculous. And it's Tim Robinson, so there is, look, I'm not going to lie to you and say that there's not a high level of, like, bubbling ridiculousness in this. But there's also a lot of just tension and suspense. I mean, there were parts in the show that I'm like literally sitting here like white knuckling the arms of my chair, like watching this and just going, oh God, whatever else. I mean, it can get suspenseful, but it can also be ridiculously funny too. I liked it. They obviously have a plan for season 2. Let's Google real quick, because you know what? I don't want to Google in this tab, because this is how I know how to pronounce Weltschmerz. Chair Company season 2. It was renewed for a second season. When is it going to come on? Premiere date has not been announced, but industry insiders are anticipating release window of late 2026 or early 2027. Perfect. So hopefully sometime later this year, beginning of next year. But yeah, guys, it's really good. Here's a little description. The first season left audiences with a web of loose threads following the wild twist-filled finale. Season 2 is expected to dive deeper into the overarching Tekka conspiracy. Tekka is the chair company, by the way, and unravel the bizarre. Oh, we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop right there, because that does kind of lead to a spoiler. So I'm gonna stop there. But anyway, yes, the chair company. Episodes are only half an hour, give or take. So it's not like a long watch or anything. I highly recommend it. It was good. I enjoyed it. And I'm definitely waiting for season 2, because I need to know what happens with this. I am invested into finding out what is going on with the company that makes these chairs. And something is up. Something is crazy up, and I don't know what it is, and it's weird, and I dig it. So the chair company, that's my recommendation for this Villiger Entertainment Report. What else do I have for you guys? Let me check my notes here. Oh, well, you know what? Let's do this.
Guess what, motherfucker?
It's time for 3 cigars we smoked and enjoyed this week. And let me bring up my list, because I forgot that I didn't do this, and I need to go ahead and do this. So, what have I smoked and enjoyed this week? So, the first one I want to give a highlight to is one that I smoked on the Parishioner Zoom Herf on Friday. I smoked the HVC Black Friday 10-year anniversary. It was, I guess it was like a Super Toro. I don't know. Anyway, super good cigar. And I picked that up for like $7.50 at Party Source. It was super cheap and it was really good. And I enjoyed the hell out of that. I like HVC and I like the Black Fridays. And, yeah, I dug that one. That was good. The next one that I want to highlight that I smoked and enjoyed, I fired up just the other day. I got my Cigar Authority box in the mail from Two Guys, and it had my show pack, but it also had my EP Carrillo pack that came with the little baseball card because I'm still a sucker buying all these baseball cards, and because I have to collect them all. At this point, I'm in for a penny and for a pound, so I have to get them all. And so there, I smoked the EP Carrillo Encore Black in, I guess it's a Bellicoso kind of size. And holy shit, that thing smoked wonderfully. And the ash on that held together so well. I was tempted to try and have it just go. And I didn't because at some point or another it was starting to so I went ahead and ashed it. But oh my gosh, that Encore Black from EP Carrillo was such a good cigar, and I'm glad I have a second one in there that I will smoke at another date. And then finally, this is the big one. So yesterday, Wednesday, because I'm recording this Thursday for Friday. Wednesday, I received a box. From Two Guys Cigars. And it was a box that I was not anticipating. I wasn't anticipating it. Now, had I listened to the Cigar Authority on Saturday live, I would have known it was coming. But I didn't, because I don't. I listen to it on Wednesdays, typically when I'm driving. And so, doing my deliveries. And so, I didn't hear Dave on the Cigar Authority on Saturday mention that he was shipping a shipment of lemonade to me to try for my reviews. Now, granted, his lemonade is where the whole lemonade review thing came from. I liked the lemonade at Two Guys so damn much, I wanted to try and find one that was close to it that I could have here because I didn't think I could get it shipped from Two Guys. And probably I can't. They did a very special thing. They bubble wrapped the hell out of that. And I can't even imagine what the shipping cost was for 6 bottles of lemonade. I mean, that was not an insignificant weight, So I cannot remotely thank Dave and Ed and the crew at Two Guys enough for sending me this lemonade. But they sent me 6 bottles of their lemonade. And so I received that on Wednesday, and I put up a little unboxing video that's on YouTube and in the parishioners group for anybody, and I think and it's on my Instagram as well for anybody who wants to see it. But yes. So first of all, I want to publicly on the show thank them profusely for sending me this lemonade. It's like gold. It is going to be rationed. It is a valuable commodity in my fridge. However, it arrived that day. I had to drink one Wednesday night, and I had to smoke a good cigar. I had to get a good cigar to go with that lemonade. And so I did that, and I sat here and watched my wrestling, because it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for Dynamite. But anyway, so I had my lemonade, my Two Guys lemonade, which I did throw away the bottle. Oftentimes there might be a bottle. I'm bad about policing up my desk here. But anyway, I had my lemonade, and with it, I smoked the Bandolero Premium Magnificos S. This is the Bandolero Premium, and this one was a special one. Let me bring up Bandolero Premium. Yeah, Bandolero Premium 55. It's not really telling me. Yeah, so basically it was what is this? Rare and exclusive smoking experience, handcrafted in Costa Rica, aged for 3 years in humidors, lined with 5 distinct types of cedar. In Madrid, Spain, medium bodied, parallel depth of flavor. Anyway, long and short, it was a really, really good, really good cigar, and I enjoyed the hell out of that with my lemonade. And that was also another one that I was getting an incredible ash on. I made it. I ended up making it halfway into that cigar before I ended up ashing. I do not, again, that was also another one of those things where I don't think I could have made it any further. It was leaning pretty good, and I think it had to go. But I made it halfway through that cigar before I ended up ashing it. So, very well constructed cigar from Selected Tobaccos and Nelson Alfonso there. So, anyway, those are my 3 cigars I smoked and enjoyed this week. So, guys, it's that time where I tell you that I'm available on Instagram at The Cigar Pulpit. I'm on Facebook, where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You can find the private group, request access, and start posting and engaging the other parishioners in that group. I'm on Twitter/X. You can watch the video show, or the show here on Rumble and YouTube if you so choose. Speaking of Rumble and YouTube, I do the Drive Time Review every Wednesday. It comes out at 7 a.m. on Wednesdays on YouTube and Rumble. I've given up the TikTok. I'm done with the TikTok. It's dead. I'm over it. I'm moving on. So if you follow me on TikTok and you expect it on there, I'm sorry. It just didn't pan out. They don't like cigars. They came at me, and I'm over it. So anyway, and to be honest, I kind of hate the platform anyway. So it's just whatever. So we have the Drive Time Reviews on Wednesdays. Give me a call on the Ask the Pulpit hotline. Area code 863-874-0000. That's 863-874-0000. Or tofu pie with no E, 0000. Save it in your phone. And whenever you have a thought, whenever you have a random comment, question, suggestion, criticism, complaint, whatever it happens to be about the show, maybe you're listening to an episode and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe Nick just said that. Call me up. Call the Cigar Pulpit hotline and call me up and leave your comment, and I will use it in an upcoming Ask the Pulpit episode. And then finally, if you are not signed up for the Cigar Chronicle newsletter, head on over to cigarpulpit.com. There's a little pop-up box that comes up there. You can put in your email address and you will be added to the list. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out. I really wish the little chippy thing in the band for the Vert Schmartz. Vert Schmartz. It rhymes with hearts. Vert Schmartz. Would have worked. Because I'll tell you, it's cool. So for those of you who haven't seen it, head on over to YouTube, dig back in my videos. You'll find the one of the German engineered cigars from PCA, and the gentleman there, he demonstrates, he does 2 things. First, he shows off the blister packaging, and then he demonstrates the chip in the band. So it's the back half of that video where he demonstrates the chip in the band. But it's pretty cool, and they flat out said this is how they're handling track and trace in Europe with their cigars. So it may be something that if it's not a proprietary thing of theirs, maybe, or if it is, maybe they could license it out to other companies. Who knows? Whatever. But it's a thought. But I'm sure it adds to the price of the cigars themselves. Because those chips can't be. I don't know how expensive they are, but they certainly aren't free. So they have to pay for that. But anyway, it's a cool thing. So go check it out. I'm enjoying the Vert Smarts. It's been a fairly it's a medium cigar. Little bit of leathery earth to the flavor of it. So the retrohale has an interesting mix of both pepper and burning. And I don't mean burning as in like my nostrils are burning. I mean like when you are putting things into a fire and they're burning, you're getting that flavor to it. I'm not sure I recommend the retrohale on this thing. But the actual smoking experience of the Vert Smarts is actually not bad. I would smoke it again. I just probably, I don't know. The retrohale in the beginning was much nicer than the retrohale as I'm down to about the last, third of it or so. Just saying. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, I don't know. Enough of me. I'm tired, and you've heard enough out of me. So, guys, thank you so much for taking time out. I appreciate it. As always, this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Everybody, stay safe and stay smoky. Take care, everyone.